Welcome back, America. I'm here with Tim Scott, who's become a very good friend of mine. Just a nice guy. He is as he seems, no pretensions. He's a solid man, both morally and he's a solid man. Philosophy, he's a man who's about to get married, so he has a big smile on his face. I don't blame him. I have a beautiful wife, too. Now, Tim Scott, this issue about can Donald Trump appeal to moderate voters, to Democrats and so forth. May I ask you a couple of questions? First of all, wasn't he elected president, number one? And number two, isn't this what they say every time a conservative runs for president?
Well, you did a great job. I mean, think about the fact that Ronald Reagan said he can't win. He's just an actor. He has no ability to appeal beyond California, beyond conservatives, beyond independents. Here's what we know. 49 out of 50 states later, Ronald Reagan did what no other president has done, number one. Number two, the good news about President Trump is this. In New Hampshire, liberals voted, Democrats voted, independent voters all voted in the New Hampshire Republican primary. And what was the result? A double-digit win. And here's what's really cool from my perspective. Donald Trump didn't just win with seniors. He didn't just win with women. He didn't just win with millennials. He won with all three demographics. Listen, Mark, Donald Trump won millennials by the largest margin against Nikki Haley, 58 to 36, I think it was. He won women against Nikki Haley. He won seniors. When you go to New Hampshire, where it's an open primary, where liberals and Democrats and independents are joining Republicans, Donald Trump cleaned house. And now we're bringing that to South Carolina, a more conservative group of people. But here's what you'll see. Today, 1 out of 5 black folks are looking at the Great Opportunity Party. Why? Because Donald Trump delivered when he was president, and we have good memories. Today, 40+% of Hispanics are looking at Donald Trump and the GOP. Why? Because Donald Trump brought the lowest unemployment rate to Hispanics in the history of the country. See, Hispanics are like black people who are like white people who are like Asians. We care about family values. We care about a secure southern border. We care about safety in our streets. There's no monolith that exists only in the minds of liberals and Democrats. Can they say the color of your skin will determine how you're going to vote? Donald Trump is changing everything we know about American politics today, and that's good news for a nation. He has the chance to unite the party, unite the country behind success. That's what we have from 2017 to 2020, and it's coming back 2024. Starting in January 2025, we'll have lower taxes back on the menu. We'll have low inflation back on the menu. We'll have low crime and high levels of law enforcement back on the menu for the American people. That's good news, Mark. And thank you. You are a teller of truth. You are a purveyor of hope. You are an ambassador for what's good about America.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. Tim Scott, what is it about these Republican establishment, these elites who are wrong all the time? They got Romney, he lost. They got McCain, he lost. They got Dole, he lost. They got George H.W. Bush when he wasn't running in the Reagan third term, he lost. Sometimes they win, but they act like only they can win. Tell me, is it a winning agenda to literally stand for nothing? Nothing. I don't even know what Nikki Haley stands for. She's for China, against China. She's for Disney. She's against Disney. She's for a secure border. She's quiet about a secure border. I don't even know what her position is on abortion. They keep saying, I believe in Nikki's position on abortion. I said, well, what the hell is Nikki's position on abortion? I can't figure it out. But all those points aside, you think you're going to create an electoral juggernaut around not just no labels, but no policies?
Well, the exit interviews from New Hampshire was really important. The young millennials who came out to support Nikki Haley said in a general election, Nikki Haley versus Joe Biden, they're leaving Nikki Haley and they're going back home to Joe Biden. They said they voted in the Republican primary to make it harder for President Trump to win. But even in the demographic that they represent, Donald Trump, he won 58-42, 58-35. So what we know for sure is whatever they're selling, Americans are not buying. Number one. Number two, think about this. You may have a quasi-understanding of where Nikki stands on issues, but you have a clear understanding of where President Trump stands on the issues. Let's think about the number one issue facing this nation today. President Trump is clear, crystal clear, that securing the southern border with a wall is absolutely, positively, unequivocally job number one. The largest invasion in the history of the country has come across a porous, wide open southern border, jeopardizing our lives in this nation. I believe, Mark, and this is not being hyperbolic whatsoever, I believe that because 10 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border, 85% let free in our nation, that we have sleeper cells in our nation today. We know that hundreds of people on our national security watch list have been caught at our southern border. Mark, 10 million people? How many did we not catch? I'm very concerned that the greatest national security threat to America today is not in Europe. It's not even in the Middle East. It's here at home. We should stand strong by our ally Israel, but we also should secure our southern border now. That should be a silo package supporting Israel, a silo package securing our southern border before we have a conversation about anything else. If America's not the city on the hill, if we are not the shining star, there is no hope for the rest of the world. We need Donald Trump to secure our southern border and then to make sure that our economy sweeps out Bidenomics and brings in more Trump tax cuts.
You know, Tim Scott, I do want to make it abundantly clear, this isn't going to be an easy election, even if the playing field were level. And people need to understand what's at stake, and they need to understand that they have to work hard, that this isn't a given. And the reason is very, very simple. They control the media, they control the culture, they control the narrative. And so all these battles are taking place, plus they control the DAs in New York State, the DAs in Atlanta, Georgia, the prosecutors in Washington, D.C., and that is Joe Biden. I believe that's what he's betting on in the end, is trying to take out Donald Trump through the legal system. But when we come back, my question for you is about you. You're taking a lot of incoming because you stood on the stage, you supported Donald Trump, you do what you do, you're the best preacher in the Republican Party, and now the very same people who are protecting Kamala Harris and Nikki Haley and other people of color, well, their bigotry is in full display on their attacks on you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.